What if becoming the Pirate King was never Luffy's real dream? For more than 20 years, fans believed Luffy's goal was simple: find the One Piece and become the Pirate King. But the deeper the story goes, the clearer it becomes that this was never the end of Luffy's journey. Because Luffy himself once revealed something shocking. Becoming Pirate King is only a step toward his real dream. In a flashback from Luffy's childhood, he tells Ace and Sabo about the dream he wants to achieve when he becomes a pirate. But Oda does something very strange in that moment. He never lets us hear the words. Instead, the scene cuts away right before Luffy says it. All we see are their reactions. Ace bursts out laughing. Sabo looks completely stunned. And both of them say the same thing: that's impossible. Years later, Luffy tells the same dream to the Straw Hats. And once again, Oda hides the actual words. But the reactions are unforgettable. Nami looks confused. Usopp is in shock. Sanji is speechless. Even Zoro, who rarely reacts strongly to anything, seems surprised. And that tells us something important. Luffy's dream isn't just big, it's ridiculous. The kind of dream that sounds impossible, even in a world full of pirates and monsters. But here's a detail that makes this moment even more important. Shanks already knew that dream, because long before Luffy ever said those words, another pirate had said the exact same thing. Gol D. Roger. Roger had the same dream as Luffy. And when Shanks heard Luffy say those words in the East Blue, he didn't just see a strong kid. He heard the voice of his captain. This is exactly why Shanks sacrificed his arm, not just to save a boy, but because in that moment, he realized something unbelievable. The will of Roger had returned. The next man who would shake the world was standing right in front of him. But what exactly is this dream? If Luffy already plans to become the Pirate King, what could possibly be bigger than that? To answer that, we need to understand what the title of Pirate King really means to Luffy. For most pirates, the Pirate King is the ruler of the seas, the strongest, the richest, the most feared. But for Luffy, the Pirate King represents something completely different: freedom. Luffy has said it many times throughout the story. The Pirate King is the freest person on the seas, not a king who rules others, but someone who can do anything he wants. So if becoming Pirate King gives Luffy ultimate freedom, what would he choose to do with it? Some fans believe the answer is surprisingly simple. Luffy wants to throw the biggest party in the world. At first, that might sound like a joke, but if you look at Luffy's journey, a clear pattern appears. Every island the Straw Hats save ends the same way, with a celebration. Alabasta celebrated their freedom. Skypiea held a massive feast. Dressrosa threw a giant festival. And Wano ended with a huge party. Wherever Luffy goes, people laugh. People eat. People celebrate. Because Luffy doesn't just defeat villains, he frees entire nations. But there's one problem. A party for the entire world can't exist in the current One Piece world, because the world itself is divided by the Red Line. The Red Line is the massive continent that splits the oceans into separate seas. It separates people, it divides cultures, and it keeps the world fragmented. This is why many fans believe the final war of One Piece won't just defeat the world government, it will change the geography of the world itself. The destruction of the Red Line could unite all the seas into one ocean, all blue. A legendary ocean where fish from every sea gathered together. But more importantly, it would remove the walls that divide the world. No more barriers between islands. No more separated oceans. A single, united world. But the more you think about it, the more this idea begins to connect with many of the biggest mysteries in One Piece. Because the world wasn't always divided like this. 800 years ago, during the time of the Void Century, something massive happened. A war so devastating that the history of the entire world was erased. The world government destroyed the truth of that era and created a new system of control. Islands were separated, knowledge was forbidden, entire civilizations were wiped out, but one man stood against that system. Joy Boy. Joy Boy made a promise to the world. A promise that, for some reason, he was unable to keep. That promise has echoed through history for centuries. Fishman Island still waits for it. The poneglyphs still carry its message. And now, in the present day, Luffy has inherited Joy Boy's will. This is why the moment Luffy awakened Gear 5 was so important. For the first time in 800 years, the power of the sun god Nika returned to the world, a power that represents laughter, freedom, and liberation. It's almost as if the world itself has been waiting for someone like Luffy to appear, someone who doesn't care about politics or power, someone who simply wants people to be free. And if that's true, then Luffy's dream might not just be a personal dream. It might be the dream that Joy Boy himself once had, a world where everyone can laugh together. But there's another detail that makes this theory even more interesting. When Roger reached Laughtale and discovered the truth of the world, he didn't cry, he laughed. And after returning from Laughtale, Roger said something very strange. He said he wished he had lived in the same era as Joy Boy. Think about that. Roger was the greatest pirate who ever lived. He conquered the Grand Line, reached the final island, and discovered the greatest treasure in history. And yet, even he believed he had arrived too early. Too early for what? Most fans believe the answer lies in the final war. Because the world of One Piece is heading toward a massive conflict, the Revolutionary Army, the world government, the pirates of the New World, all of them are slowly moving toward the same inevitable moment. A war that will shake the entire planet. And at the center of that storm will be one man, Monkey D, Luffy. But unlike other conquerors in history, Luffy isn't fighting to rule the world. He's fighting to free it. And if the Red Line truly falls during that final war, then the entire geography of the world would change forever. The four seas would unite. The Grand Line would no longer divide the ocean. Fishman Island would finally reach the surface, and the legendary All Blue would become real. For the first time in centuries, the world would no longer be separated. And in that moment, Luffy's dream could finally become possible. Not just a party on one island, but a celebration across the entire planet. A moment where pirates, marines, fishmen, giants, and humans all laugh together. The kind of moment that only someone like Luffy could create. Because Luffy doesn't unite people through power. He unites them through freedom, and maybe that's the true meaning behind the One Piece. Not just treasure, not just history, but the final key to creating a world where everyone can finally be free. A world where the Pirate King doesn't rule anymore. He simply throws the greatest party the world has ever seen. And if that really is Luffy's secret dream, then the end of One Piece might not be a battle. It might be the moment the entire world finally laughs together. And in that world, Luffy's dream could finally become possible. A celebration where everyone is invited. Humans, fishmen, giants, pirates, even former enemies. A party so massive that the entire world laughs together. Suddenly, Roger's reaction at Laughtale starts to make sense. When Roger discovered the truth of the world, he laughed. Not because the treasure was a joke, but because the dream behind it was so absurdly simple. A dream that only someone like Luffy could truly achieve. Roger realized the truth, but he arrived too early. The world wasn't ready yet. That's why he started the Great Pirate Era. He was waiting for the one person crazy enough to finish the job. And now, that person might finally exist. Monkey D. Luffy, the man who awakened the power of the sun god Nika, the warrior of liberation, the man who turns battles into laughter. When Luffy finally reaches Laughtale and learns the truth of the world, the story of One Piece won't end. That's when the real fight will begin. A war against the system that has controlled the world for 800 years. And if Luffy wins, if the Red Line falls, if the seas finally unite, then the Pirate King might achieve his real dream. Not ruling the world, but throwing the greatest party the world has ever seen, a celebration of freedom. Because in the end, Luffy never wanted to control the seas. He only wanted a world where everyone could laugh together. And maybe that's Luffy's true dream. But now I want to ask you something. When Luffy finally becomes Pirate King, what do you think his secret dream really is?